All right, let's dive into a question that sounds incredibly simple, but trust me, it's one of the biggest puzzles in philosophy, and it's this. What exactly is an action? What is the real fundamental difference between the things you do and the things that just, well, happen to you?
Okay, think about it like this. You can intentionally raise your arm to ask a question in class, right? But your arm could also just rise on its own, maybe from a weird muscle spasm. Now, the physical movement in both cases, it's exactly the same. So, what's the missing ingredient? What is that extra little spark that turns a simple physical event into a deliberate action?
You know, the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein nailed this puzzle with this one famous question. It gets right to the heart of what it means to be an agent, a doer in the world, and not just, a passive object that things happen to. So let's dig into the main answers.
So this is what we're going to call the raised arm puzzle. And trying to solve this thing, it's not just a small riddle. It opens up this huge philosophical detective story into what makes us agents in our own lives. And as we're about to see, this question goes way beyond just humans.
I mean, let's zoom out for a second. There are all these different kinds of activity happening in the world. A fire burning a log is definitely active, but we don't think it's acting on purpose. Then you have an ant building a nest. That's way more complex. It's goal-oriented. But a person deciding to make a phone call, that feels like it's on a whole other level. It feels like something guided by real thought and purpose.
Okay, so how do we explain that fundamental difference? Well, the first and probably most intuitive idea is what philosophers call the standard story of action. You can just think of it as the common sense theory.
The idea is actually super simple, and action is just a bodily movement that's caused by the right stuff in your head. Specifically, it's a mix of what you want, your desires, and what you believe to be true. The fancy name for this theory is causalism, but standard story gets the idea across perfectly. So here's how the chain of events is supposed to work. First, you have a desire. Man, I really want a coffee. Then you have a belief. I know the coffee's in the kitchen. Put those two together and they form an intention. Okay, I'm gonna go get that coffee. And that intention then causes your body to move. You get up, you walk to the kitchen. Simple enough, right? And you can see why the standard story is so popular. It feels like it solves Wittgenstein's puzzle perfectly. The thing left over, the difference between your arm rising and you raising it, is just that causal link back to your beliefs and desires. It's clean, it's intuitive, but of course philosophy is never ever that simple.
So where does this neat and tidy story start to fall apart? Well, the big problem, the huge wrench in the works, is a phenomenon with the very cool name of deviant causation. This is where that causal chain just gets really, really weird.
Okay, check out this classic thought experiment. You've got a climber who wants to get rid of the weight of another man on his rope. Now this desire, combined with his belief that letting go would do the trick, makes him so incredibly nervous that his hands start to tremble and he accidentally lets the rope go. Now think about it. According to the standard story, his desire did cause the outcome. But did he let go intentionally? No way.
Or how about this one? A hunter intends to kill someone and takes a shot. He misses completely, but the sound of the gunshot startles a nearby herd of wild pigs, and they stampede and end up trampling the person he was trying to shoot. Again, his intention to kill did cause the death, but not at all in the way he planned. It was a total fluke.
So this is the real killer question for the standard story. For both the climber and the hunter, their mental states absolutely cause the final result. But we all instinctively feel that these were not intentional actions. The causal chain was deviant. It went off the rails. It seems like just having any causal link isn't enough. You need the right kind of causal link. And trying to define what that right kind is, well, that has turned out to be incredibly difficult.
So, because of this whole deviant causation problem, philosophers started to look for a completely different kind of answer. And this brings us to the main rival theory, which takes the focus off cause and effect entirely and puts it somewhere else.
So what if we've been looking in the wrong place this whole time? What if the secret ingredient to an action isn't about its cause, its backstory, but it's about a special kind of awareness that you have while you are doing it?
This is called the knowledge view, and it's most famously connected to the philosopher Elizabeth Anscombe. The big idea here is that for something to count as an intentional action, you have to know you're doing it, but not by looking or observing yourself. Think about it. When you're typing or walking, you don't have to watch your hands or your feet to know what you're doing. You just know. It's a direct, practical, built-in kind of knowledge.
So let's put these two head to head.
The standard story, remember, is all about the past, the mental cause that kicked things off. The knowledge view is all about the present, the agent's knowledge as the action is happening. And look how neatly this deals with our climber problem. The climber didn't know he was letting go in that special, direct way. It was just something that happened to him. And just like that, the whole problem of the deviant cause, it kind of just disappears.
Okay, now that we have these two big ideas on the table, let's really put them to the test with a fascinating case. Animals. How does all this stuff apply to the rest of the animal kingdom?
I mean, it sure looks like it, doesn't it? The cat seems to have a clear goal, and it's taking very deliberate steps to get there. It's obviously not just a series of random twitches, but does it actually fit into our philosophical models of action?
Well, the debate here is really fascinating. On one side, some philosophers argue that true action needs complex beliefs that animals probably don't have, like, say, having beliefs about your own beliefs. But on the other side, many argue that animals have a more basic kind of agency, one that's driven by their perceptions and desires. And this leads to a really tough puzzle. If we say animals can't act intentionally, then how on earth did we humans evolve that ability, and how do our own kids learn to do it?
And so we're left right back where we started, with our central question. Is an action just a chain of causes, or is it an expression of knowledge? The answer, you see, isn't just for a philosophy class. It defines the very line between being a person and being a puppet. And as we build more and more sophisticated AI, it forces us to ask a whole new question. Can a machine ever truly act? Or will it always just be a very complex puppet with its strings being pulled by lines of code?